Well, good morning. It is Wednesday, December 1st, and we have gathered for our morning devotion. I believe today's the first day of winter as well, so happy winter. Today's is called Count the Stars. And our scripture passage is Genesis 15, verses 1 through 6. After these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Do not be afraid, Abram, I am your shield. Your reward will be very great. But Abram said, O God, what will you give me? For I continue childless, and the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus. And Abram said, You have given me no offspring, and so a slave born in my house is to be my heir. But the word of the Lord came to him, This man shall not be your heir. No one but your very own issue shall be your heir. He brought him outside and said, Look towards the heaven and count the stars, if you are able to count them. Then he said to them, So shall your descendants be. And he believed the Lord, and the Lord reckoned to him as righteousness. Abram lay on his mat, listening to the sound of night and the snoring of his men, the intermittent scurrying of tiny rodents' feet along the edge of the tents, the rhythmic rise and fall of calls from countless nocturnal birds. He rolled over with a groan, searching and failing to find some kind of relief for his aching back. He was getting too old for life in a tent. He was surrounded by goatskin walls instead of stones and adobe. The mats in the floor offered precious little cushion from ever-stiffening joints and muscles. The routine was daily and predictable. Pack up, move to a new plot of ground for the herd and flock, struggle to find water, pitch your tent, and then get up the next day and do it all over again. Abram heard a familiar cough as Sarah stirred on the other side of the tent in the women's room. He pictured her there, awake too, staring at the thin line of pale moonlight creeping along the bottom edge of the tent as her heart strained to find a remembering glimmer of hope in the dark night of God's long-delayed promise. Aching back, empty womb, broken heart. Abraham had asked her to give up her family, her country, and every comfort of home to wander Canaan with him. If she did, he was told God would finally give her a child for which they so longed. Abraham believed God, and Sarah believed Abram. But now the years stretched out behind them, ticking away until all hope of a child was almost lost. They were now old, so very old. God promised, and Abraham's faith had grown dim. Abram sighed, his eyes fluttered close, and his tent grew silent. And Abraham heard the voice of God, soft and very near. It says, Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward. Tears filled the old man's eyes as he cried out into the darkness. Sovereign Lord, what can you give me since I remain childless? You have given me no children, so a servant in my household will be my heir. God responded to Abram's doubt. His question and accusations are remarkably tender. This man will not be your heir, but a son who is your own flesh and blood will be your heir. Then God took Abram from his tent, and out into the night, bright and starlight, Abram pulled his cloak closer against the chill, and God says, Look to the sky and count the stars. If indeed you can count them, so shall be your offspring. Abram lifted his deeply lined face to the sky, strewn with multitude of stars, each crafted by God's own hand. He grasped at the magnitude of it, in awe of a son laden of righteous wonder, the handicraft of God who specialized in the impossible. And Abraham believed. Then, more than 3 decades later, Abram, now Abraham, by God, paced back and forth in front of his tent as the sound of Sarah's cry mingled with the songs of the night. And then, a baby's thin cry abruptly joined the chorus of creation. Abraham cried out in joy and fell to his knees in worship of God who was faithful to his promise, a God from whom nothing is impossible. Moments later, a servant knelt beside him and placed Abraham's swaddling new boy in the ancient farmer's arm. Abraham bent his head low to brush the top of the boy's head with his lips. So tiny, so small, so fragile. A promise fulfilled just in time. Abraham turned his face to heaven, with a multitude of stars stretched out into infinity, and Abraham believed.